Hi, welcome, Karen.
Hi, Janet.
Hi, glad to have you on a holiday with us, and thank you for taking the time to share your experiences and insights with us today.
No, it's such a pleasure to come on board here, and I just love what you're doing with creating such valuable content. So always happy to jump on.
Yeah, thank you. So I learned lots actually when I'm doing this. It's like we're just chit chatting on video conference, except that it's live and we have questions coming in. And we have Andal who actually says hi. She's from Andal is from Malaysia. She says hi to you.
Hi, and very nice to meet with all the early ones.
Yes, that's right. It usually takes a little while for everyone to come on board. So let me just go through today with whoever that's already on board. There are already people on board. Today's session is with Miss Karen Leong. She will be sharing her entrepreneurship journey, how she picked herself up in the doldrums and has currently transited very successfully into a learning and development business in influence solutions.
That's right.
For today's episode itself, basically we will do the live chat once the episode premiere finishes. So right now we are actually before 2, so we'll be saying hello and having a chit chat with Karen here. Then we'll play the episode premiere before we go into the live Q&A. And we have Chris here as well, who is saying hello.
Hi, Chris.
Yeah. So Karen, I think the episode that we recorded was about a month ago. So how has things been since then?
Well, a month today feels like years, right? I mean, lots and lots have changed, and for us, I think what's really interesting is, pivoting fully to virtual. But more of that is that really working with our clients to do the same. I think a lot of clients have been playing the wait and see game. We work with a lot of senior leaders who just want to hold on before they make any major decisions. But what we're realizing is that when you're holding on and not just moving a little bit in terms of decision making or just communicating with your teams, what happens is that you are actually moving backwards. So I think there has been a lot of fluidity, this month.
So now, I think there are some who shared, I think, in previous episodes that at times it's actually difficult, like you say, because they're taking a wait and see approach. Do you have tips of how you normally are able to convince some of the clients that, hey, virtual training is really not that scary? What would your advice be?
Let me tell you an actual incident where I had a client, and they had this vision, it's like a transformation project with us, and then they just kind of put the brakes on this because they're saying that, hey, we want to wait first and actually do face to face. But what we realized, we were not the only ones that the client had put on brakes. They also had several other pieces. I think what really worked is that we said, okay, can we just go back and say, what is really your aim of doing this transformation? And the client came up with 2 or 3 things. And then we said, okay, what is the smallest, simplest step you can move towards that aim? And that's when we decided, the client came in and said, okay, I think my people are, they need something to increase their confidence and their resilience. What's the smallest thing? Could you guys come in and do like a 2-hour session? Instead of like the 1-year project that we had on plan, we just focused on that 2 hours. And that 2 hours made a difference. And now we're just planning things in bite sizes of 2 hours with our clients. So I think sometimes let's stop with, just being confronted with big plans, but let's go on to the smallest molecular step because that takes the pressure off us. And it allows us to try out something with little consequences and then just adjust along the way.
Right. That's actually very, very good advice. I think at times, because all of us are quite used to doing long programs, 1 full day workshop, 2 full day workshops, and when it comes to virtual training itself, it can be quite a challenge. I think, especially from a student perspective, even we on the receiving end at times, how can I sit in front of the computer for 4 hours for a lesson? Yeah, so that's good advice. Yeah.
But we could sit down for 3 hours watching a movie.
Yes, yes. It's just interesting how a human, when we are being entertained, then we have no issue sitting there for 3 hours. So that comes my next question. How do you continue to actually engage your audience when you're doing these training itself?
That's a really good question. In fact, I just did a masterclass on virtual engagement, for a group of professional speakers. That's the reality. I mean, we do 4-hour workshops even, as well as really short 15-minute TED style keynotes. I think the thing about engagement is just to remember that, hey, it's never really the information that is important now. It's really looking at what is that one change that you want to make in the way people think, feel, and act, and then go strip down to that bare minimum. And the next thing is that to realize that we are also zoomed out. I mean, for us, even for us to sit down and listen to a one-way lecture, it's tough.
Yes.
But just remember two things. When there is two-way engagement, our attention span can go for very long. Like Janet, if you were a good friend and if we were talking over Zoom, I bet we can talk for hours.
That's true.
Yes. So remember, two-way engagement, if you introduce it in at least every 5 minutes, what happens is that it breaks it, it increases the engagement level. And then secondly, is always remember the thing, goes back to the aim. Unless you establish value upfront, which means in the first 1 to 2 minutes, people should know why they're attending this. I mean, what is it that they're going to get out of this that will change their lives? When we are vested, then we're going to pay attention.
That's true, definitely. That's quite a lot of good advice as well. About 1 minute before we go to the episode premiere, I would like to basically say hello and welcome to people who have just joined us. We have Miss Karen Leong here with us today. She was a high flyer in corporate, I think in one of the big 4 accounting firms, before she transited. And during the episode premiere, she'll be sharing how she transited and started her entrepreneurial journey before she goes into some problems, and then she picked herself up and reinvented and pivoted her business to the currently very successful Influence Solutions learning and development firm. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead, Karen, to just hide you for a little while, share the episode premiere, and all of you can then key in your questions afterwards, and we will carry on with the live Q&A session with Karen. See you later, Karen. Hi, welcome to the Leadership During Crisis Online Summit series. Thank you for taking your time to watch these episodes. Please remember to subscribe at our YouTube channel. We will be releasing the episodes 3 times a week on Mondays, Wednesdays, Friday at 2 p.m.
So let me give you all the time you need to have this morning. Karen Leong, it's your time.
Why is the ability to influence so important? Because that's when you can transform the way people think, feel, and inspire action.
She was named one of the 10 influential professional speakers in Singapore.
Why or what led to the crisis in your situation or organization?
I think the question needs to be reframed. What led to the many crises in my situation? It's quite interesting. If we look at the trajectory of my life, it's like the stock market. You have jagged ups and downs. But I would want to say that there are definitely 2 pivotal moments. Firstly was I'm an auditor and consultant by training. I was with KPMG, the big 4 accounting firms. And after having built up a decade of corporate experience, I had my first crisis, and we call it the quarterlife crisis. And that saw me do something completely different. Because I decided from crisis, I'm going to be creative. So I went to Amsterdam. Mm-hmm. And I decided to spend 1 year of sabbatical, just helping women who were dealing with crisis because they were victims of trafficking. So I think kind of putting myself right smack into the crisis zone to understand what it's all about was just incredibly humbling, inspiring. So I saw a lot of strength in such vulnerable situations. And I think it sparked off this seed of being an entrepreneur in me. So that started my second phase of my life, where I decided to start my first business, which was in fashion. I launched my own fashion label, and it was in running this fashion business for 2 years, not having any idea, no fashion training. But I converted a lack of experience into completely creative pursuit. However, I was also again humbled because I think I was too ambitious. So I overexpanded the business from B2B to creating a retail chain. And that was when I actually suffered my first financial devastation. Coming to a point where I had $0 in my bank account, right? I think that was really my rock bottom. But, you know, as they say, sometimes your rock bottom becomes the foundation as which you build on.
Yes.
And I realized that even with zero money in the bank, you actually won't die. It's very hard to die, especially in a country like Singapore. Then I reinvented myself. I started a second business, but now it was in learning and development, representing international speakers. And that was great because I brought in top experts and I organized conferences, helping companies benefit from leadership, influence, and presentation skills training. Now it's 13 years, I think, that I'm running, Influence Solutions. And the interesting thing is that we are in a period of crisis. But what has happened is that I have transformed basically what we have learned over the years. And now we help our clients to thrive in crisis. We had started doing this a decade ago. So crisis is actually not new. I mean, we like to call it a crisis. But in fact, people deal with change and disruption all the time.
In your situation, right, I think when you said that there was $0 bank account and you were a very successful career person, and all of a sudden your world crashed financially. So I think in today's world, especially in the crisis period, a lot of businesses will be suffering. A lot of people may be made redundant. What went through your mind to help you pick yourself up to move on?
That you captured the sentiment so perfectly, because literally it's really, really more a crisis in our heads first. Because when we feel that there is no other answer, what happened is that we literally just freeze. I think what really helped me was just getting out of my way, because I was moping at home for such a long time. And I can still remember my mom actually saying, hey, it's about time you just stepped out of a house and get something going. Sometimes we think that, when we are in a deep hole, we need a very big action to kind of pull ourselves up. For me, what really helped was literally just deciding that I am just going to get fitter. Every time I was, exercising, I had these quiet moments. It gave me a time to kind of relook at my situation. And that's when it hit me that if you look at this, every situation, there is a problem and an opportunity. And I've been so focused on seeing the problem that I became part of the problem. I only realized that, the best businesses are businesses that are solving big, big problems. So if we are facing a problem, if you flip it around, and then you realize that if you come up with a solution for your very own problem, what happens is that you will have the magic potion that many other people want as well. You will have what it takes to be able to help and make a difference to so many. So I flipped it around, and I remember that this is a crisis of self-esteem. This is a crisis of imagination. What I need to do now is that, what am I going to do to, dig myself out of the hole? And that started getting me really interested in learning and development. And that's why, for me, I started to be fascinated about how we could influence and transform, because I speak a lot about transformation. And the seeds of that was actually for my own transformation. And so that's what got me writing a book on influence, coming up with influencing style profiling tools. And now in my organization, all our programs, our profiling tools, our 360 leadership styles, assessment tools, they're all actually created in-house. And it's based on our own personal experiences, but more importantly, it's working with thousands of courageous leaders and teams all across the world. And we've kind of converted their stories and made it into something tangible that can help many other companies. I talked about, listening to the research by the Danish psychologist Erickson. He talks about performance. And his work led to the 10,000-hour rule. I mean, you may have heard of it. That was featured in Malcolm Gladwell's phenomenal bestseller Outliers. But we all know that if you want to gain mastery, then you need 10,000 hours of deliberate practice. But here's the catch that is missing in Malcolm Gladwell's book. See, many people think that I just need to be more specialized. I need to deliberately practice in my area of expertise. But the thing is, specialization actually can lead to a plateau. Sometimes the more we do certain things, we fall into the tendency to go into autopilot. And so, what happens, the more experienced you are, the more you're not actually leveraging your creativity or your other resources, because it's the same old. Performance actually peaks, and you're more vulnerable to very dramatic crises like this one. That actually requires agility. And so what I got out of this whole research and also my own thoughts is that people who are doing the same thing or in very established industries, you need to start getting out of the safe zone. And the best way of getting out of the safe zone is start by pushing boundaries and experimenting. So literally doing something different. And this COVID-19 situation is a global experiment in working differently. I think if businesses can start seeing it like this is not something which is a short-term disruption, but it is a new normal, then businesses can start looking at this seriously and saying, all right, how are we going to truly invent ourselves for the new future?
Hi, Karen. That was a month ago.
It's just incredible how
Yes.
fast time flies.
Yes. So now I think before we went live, we were just chatting that you see a second and third wave that will be coming. And in the video, you're already saying that businesses should reinvent themselves to be able to actually thrive or survive first and then thrive in the slightly longer term. So what are the advices that you're providing your clients currently?
I think right now, the two things that really pop up is number one, just be able to look beyond technical implementation to more strategic planning. So when we are working with the C-level, it's literally reimagining what the future will look like. And like I say, start taking baby steps to achieve it. And the second thing is that I think still the most important thing is that the companies who would do well are companies that have a motivated workforce. So taking steps to build motivation, engagement, and resilience will never ever fail. I mean, this is still crucial. So rather than wait until you need to do chemotherapy from down the road, you just need to give some vitamin C right now, just to make sure that you still retain your best people and you can still grow.
Right, thanks. So while we're waiting for the questions to come in, I'm just going to let the audience know you can actually start to key in your questions in the chat box. If you are coming in from the desktop, please key into your question on the right-hand side of the screen, but you have to log into YouTube in order to do that. If you're coming in from the mobile phone, the chat box is actually at the bottom of the screen and you can key in your questions there. So we have a question from Andal right now. So her question is, let me just take these off. Okay, her question is, I like what you said about not being a specialist because you can be caught in a static space, but how much of a generalist can you be?
That's a very relevant question, Andal. And it's extremely crucial nowadays because, sometimes we often think of specialists versus generalists. But if you look at this, the word of the day is versatility. Definitely, in order to do specific jobs, we do need a minimum amount of specialization, whether you're a healthcare professional or an engineer. And what happens is this is going to be the rise of a versatile leader, because the more we rise into leadership positions whereby we could make larger impact, leaders are going to be managing people who are specialists in their domain, going to be smarter than them, who are going to be know more about them. So which means that if you were to use the word, yes, leaders need to start becoming versatile and, like you say, generalists in a way where you've got to move out of your specialization. That's the only way you will not burn out. And that's the only way as a leader you would raise your hands to take on assignments that you think are beyond your depth. And I speak that especially for women, because a lot of women think in order to lead a team, I need to be 100% qualified. No, you don't need to have it. And I'll tell a story that I've always shared about when I was moderating a panel discussion. One of my panelists was very successful. She just finished leading a digital transformation for her bank. And then I realized, she said that, I had no IT background. So I thought, hey, without this specialized knowledge, how do you lead a digital transformation? And she says, you know what? She said, I thought it would be challenging. But later on, it turned out to be an enabler. Because I wasn't specialized in tech, I wasn't confined to the realms of what's possible. I could play within the realms of what's desirable. I could focus on what my clients want, what my stakeholders want. And you know what? Because I painted that compelling vision, my tech team rose to the occasion. So I just want to share with you that being versatile and not letting your specialization actually hold you back is going to be the key to success in this changing world. I hope that helps.
Great. Thanks, Karen. So here's another comment from, I think it's BK from Korea. So he says, where there is a problem, there is always a solution. I like the phrase that you mentioned, to flip it around. So now, I think, like you said in also the video, you had a quarter-life crisis, right? So with these crisis, I think a lot of people who are mid-career, not even quarter career, they may be thinking about, really, is it the right time to go on the entrepreneurial journey? So if there are audiences like that in the crowd, what would your advice be?
It's, I just give you a story. I was coaching this very senior executive, and this executive said, I'm already at the peak of my career, and he wanted to start a new business, but he was just afraid. What if I fail? I've got commitments, and if I stay on in my current role, I'm not satisfied. So because he was looking at a very binary thing, do I start a company or do I stay in my current company? So he had a crisis of imagination, like I shared with you. So I said, why don't we do this? Why don't we take a step back? And you tell me, what is the most desirable role that you would create for yourself? I mean, if you could do anything in the world. You know what he did? He said, actually in my current company, I love this part, this 50% of my corporate career, I love it, which is really in mentoring, just sharing, developing people, that thought leadership piece, he loved it. And he says that, but for my entrepreneur, idea, then he shared with me what he loved. But when I asked him, when he finally designed what was most ideal, it was actually 50-50. And because he had a very clear vision, he was able to then share with his company the vision of focusing on what he liked best and start his business on the side online that doesn't require so much of his job. I mean, so much hours. So I want to share with you that the best thing that COVID-19 has done for us is that it has created a lot of possibilities. a lot of norms have been bashed. So if you can think of a combination that works for you and use that clarity to sell it, firstly to yourself and then to the people around you, you might be amazed at what you can come up with. So I hope that helps to push you one more step towards what you really desire.
That's great. So it's really about reducing, I think, in terms of the risks of really starting something brand new, because you still have the stability actually of your regular income. And with COVID-19, even SIA, right, they actually allowed people to hold on to 2 jobs right now. So that's great. Now, you mentioned also in the video that your first business actually failed. What were the lessons that you actually learned that created the success that you are having right now in Influence Solutions?
That's a very good question because it failed because I was too successful too fast. So
Oh.
that was my fashion business. So I had early success, and then I just overextended and just opened too many outlets. But from that fashion business, it was one particular incident that really changed the game for me. And that's a story that I share about my first pitch that I did for a fashion house. So we had spent quite a number of months coming out with our full suite of design. And I was meeting this very influential buyer. And when I went into the meeting, I shared with her my full range. She asked me how much for it all. And back in my mind, the inner voice said that I need to close this deal. I've got so much staff salaries to pay. I can't go on forever. I need to close it. So with a heart in my mouth, I actually gave a very conservative figure. And to my surprise, but also to my relief, she said, okay, we will take it. So we were signing the agreement, we were, wrapping up everything. And just as I was about to leave, she said, Karen, would you like some advice? And I said, of course. And that's when she said that, do you know that if you had quoted double, I would still have given you the deal. Okay, I mean, those words stuck in me for a very, very, very long time, because what it hit me was that, because I didn't fully value what I had, I was desperate, all right? When we don't value what we have, the world will not value it either. So unless we are aware of our own value, we put it on the table, the world will respond in kind. So I think it really stems from just knowing our value. It's really an inner game, right? It goes back to knowing why are we on this earth for, what's our passion, what's our purpose, because there's no other comparison. So the only way is to dig deep inside and notice that when you see what you have, see what you put on the table differently, and you know it's something that can make a positive difference. The way you talk to people, the way you look, the way you behave will also communicate that value. So that is a game changer.
Okay. So now, what is that? How right now then you are positioning every single time you're looking at a package in terms of training, whether is it face-to-face or virtual? Because there are also a lot of comments that people do not feel that they should be paying so much when it's virtual, right?
So it's really interesting, right? If our mind says that virtual is a lesser product, we actually fight the battle on both ends. We actually fight with ourselves, right? And so that's the thing, because a lot of times we have, who are we looking for comparison? Okay, so if we actually, I mean, for me now, we see virtual as really a whole new possibility. I mean, our clients that we're working with, finally, they're able to work with us in one platform for their whole international team. Whereas before, they had to fly everybody down and they had to, invest a lot more money. So it's not about whether is it virtual or face-to-face, but the question is, how do we leverage on the virtual platform to make a bigger impact?
That's true. I think the training that I was telling you about, originally, I think I was doing it for maybe 15 people. Right now, I'm actually doing a total of 50 people because they don't have to fly. Yeah, so the challenge then is engaging 50 people on the platform to make sure that they stay engaged throughout the 2 days or 4 hours, I guess. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so if you are able to crack that,
Yeah.
That becomes the game changer. And if you see, it's just incredible. I mean, I was playing the escape room, a game, I think just yesterday with a group of pals. And we always thought that an escape room game has to be done physically. But it has been the most intensive, collaboration game that we've ever done. And everything is online. I think the possibilities are immense. It's just whether are you looking at the right places.
That's true. Now we have a comment from Dr. Philip Mary about your earlier answer as to the secret is to be a serious specialist and explore each specialization more deeply. That will be a constant reinvention. I agree, because I was asking him this same question the last time, because he has so many different kinds of training specialty, from HubMed to Belbin team itself. Yeah.
I love how he puts it. So really, it's a new form of serendipity, whereby we all are polymaths. We all have different specializations. It's just that we keep some latent under the radar. For example, when I work with a lot of teams, after a while, creativity seems to be a resource that people lose sight of as they go into the corporate world.
Yeah.
Not that it's not there, it's just that we've underutilized it.
That's true.
Focus on it and it will come.
So Andal also replied and said, yes, reinvention and relevance is her two-word mantra. Great. So yeah. So now let's say, in terms of personally, right? Because like you said, when we go for too much of the Zoom sessions, we get Zoomified, basically. What are some of your ways, especially you have young children at home, to basically keep yourself relaxed through this period?
I love that question. It is true. My kids, I give them permission to crash some of my Zoom internal meetings. So that's one, to keep them engaged. I think a lot of leaders are also facing this issue, and people have been speaking to me. Like, how do I engage my team? Like, my team could be Zoomified. So do I give them space or do I engage? So it's really about going along this spectrum of engagement and also creating space. So very often we not only do it for our people, but I think we also need to do it for ourselves. If you look at this, I realize that I've got a lot more time nowadays. I just posted a video, I think just a couple of days ago, asking people, what is one new habit that you have started doing during this circuit breaker that you intend to keep after the circuit breaker ends? And I realized that for me, it's actually my early morning jogs every day. So I jog at about 5 a.m., 5 to 6 a.m. every single day. Because I don't have travel time anymore. And I've got a bonus 1 hour. So that has been the biggest game changer for me personally in terms of ideas and inspiration, because I have been reading so many books just by listening to them than I've ever thought possible. So I'm just going to share with you that it's not a matter of time, that we still have 24 hours a day, but actually it's how we're using our time differently with this new way of working. So I'm going to urge you that you always need to have a portion of it for the spiritual and the physical. All right. So never ever, just think that you could have, not just survive without that balance.
Right. Now, then I think before I go into sharing the page itself, I'm going to ask you something from a woman perspective. I think one of the reasons why actually I left the corporate world was the struggling of the work-life balance, actually handling my young child at that point in time, and also trying to be successful at career at that point in time. Now, for you, I think, how do you balance this and balance the feeling of feeling guilty at times when you're supposed to spend time with your family and yet you have to deliver something else itself?
It's true. I mean, my kids are 3 and 4 years old, and so it is a constant struggle, right? So, but I think right now we are really living work-life integration.
That's true.
There is no such thing as balance anymore. So it's literally carving out the days into where it's 100% work or 100% a family, and interspacing it throughout. So I think we just also need to be kinder to ourselves. I think sometimes we give ourselves a lot of stress, and it reminds me of that we've for such a long time measured our productivity based on busyness. I think we need to start putting a premium on giving ourselves space to think, giving ourselves space to have that 20-minute nap, giving ourselves space to have creativity. So the way that we look at what makes success has to change. And I think there's no better time than right now.
Yes, I totally agree. I think we save on traveling time. We can manage in between having family time. I think for me personally, this is one of the longest time my 20-year-old son is spending time at home with me instead of with his girlfriend. So it's really a good time actually for family bonding, and I totally agree with you. When we look at things, sometimes we try to look at it like a balance, but integration is the most critical. It's not really about the quantity, but about the quality as well. Yeah. Yeah, so I have another comment from Dr. Philip Mary to say that it has been a great session, Karen. What's your tips on engaging the first 30 seconds of a webinar?
Actually, I love Philip's question, and if I'm going to look at it deeper, it actually starts from when you think the webinar begins. You see, a lot of people think that a webinar begins when everybody's already there and okay, let's start. People don't realize the beginning happens when the very first person comes into the room. Okay, so what happens is that a lot of people don't prepare for that. So they give 5 minutes of dead space where the early birds actually regret coming so early because everyone is just waiting. So prepare for the moment that you have the very first person there. And I think start to think of how am I able to make that first 5 minutes the most meaningful. Sometimes it could be as simple as having a conversation. I've done one thing where I had a masterclass and I created like a whiteboard for people to actually start interacting. And I put the question there, what makes you motivated to dash? So whatever it is, whether it's on change or it's on being that leader. So I think that's crucial. Use that to be in conversation with people and let them to explore each other's motivations that ties them back to why they should listen to the next 1 hour webinar with you in the first place. So focus on that first 5 minutes of supposed date.
Great. Great suggestion. I probably will try to use that next time.
I hope it helps. Really.
Yeah. So, Karen, I'm actually just going to hide you for a little while I share where they can get more information about you and how they can contact you. So I'll come back a little later. Similar to previous episodes, basically, to find out a little bit more about Karen, just go to the effectiveasianleadership.com website, click on the page Leadership During Crisis, and then you will reach this page here that I'm sharing, where all the episodes are listed. Scroll all the way down to Karen's episode, And when you click on watch now, basically you will come to her page, and in there you will see basically two videos. One is actually the recorded interview that we did 1 month ago. But if you like to actually watch the live Q&A together with the episode premiere, that's the next blue button that is actually below the video screen. And here below, you will read more about Karen, her experience, as well as how you can contact her at the website itself. So the other thing would be, because we have a total of 30 episodes in this particular series, so we have actually created a learning.corporatetrainerconnect.com page where you can actually just sign up for this series for free. And basically in there, once you gain entry to the program, we have categorized the episodes by different categories in terms of overcoming crisis, either personally or from a leadership communication perspective, or should one want to watch episodes purely just on overcoming emotional crisis, it's easier to go through and see which are the episodes that are more relevant. So let me just come back to Karen. Hi, Karen.
Hi, General.
So Philip says that's a great idea. Thank you so much for your time, Karen, today.
Thank you. Yes, I had a good time, and thanks for all the wonderful questions.
Yeah, no problem. I think I learned every single episode, and it was very engaging in terms of understanding the entrepreneurial experience. And we are 5 minutes after 2:30. So thank you again. So I will basically end the session right now. Thanks everyone who is still online with us, and goodbye.
Goodbye. Take care.